From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. 9 great locations here in the Tallahassee and I guess, the Sowega area, they call it. Southwest Georgia, Douglas, Georgia, Thomasville, Georgia, Marianna, Florida, and then everywhere here in Tallahassee, folks. Capital Circle, Mahan. We're everywhere. We're all over the place. But, Zaxby's, not we. I wish I was part of the chicken empire. I got to cover Florida State football for the time being. Corey Clark also here as well. We both work for Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Warchant30 is your promo code to get access to the website. Try it, you'll like it. I think we had somebody named Random Person recently joined the website. Corey, been posting on a lot of threads on Warchant. Welcome to the family, Random Person. How are you, Corey?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I'm, slowly working into Jacksonville State week, getting my mind right for that. Just some good news for everyone is the quarterback they have is, I think, one TD pass short of setting the school record for TD passes in a career. He's thrown 60 the last 2 years. I think he's a former D1 kid.
Yeah, it's Clemson kid. Jonesboro, Georgia product.
Why not? You know what I mean? Why not? So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but nothing is a gimme anymore.
No, alas, nothing is a gimme. Somebody was trying to point out some of the parallels between this game and the 2009 game with Jacksonville State when they put a scare into Florida State.
Well, the difference is you lost to Miami on literally the last play of the game because your kid couldn't catch it. It was not what we saw Saturday night.
You lost on the first play of the game practically this time, right?
You lost when they decided to play college football this season.
Somebody came at us like a month ago on Twitter and was like, how can you guys say that the Miami game is 60-40 for Miami? How preposterous can you be? But we're not here to take victory laps on bad things. But,
No, we don't want to bat. In 64, it ain't like we should be taking a victory lap for calling it 60-40.
Right.
It was 99-1.
Yeah.
Apparently.
A lot of upset people about the podcast yesterday, Corey. Lots of people listened to it, though. That might have been one of our most listened to podcasts.
I would imagine.
Some people thought I was making excuses for Mike Norvell, and some people thought I was being very just and consistent with applying Taggart criticisms to Norvell. And then some people thought you were making excuses, but then thought you were leveling just and fair observations. It's crazy how one person can hear one thing and another person can hear something else. But such is the world that we live in. It's amazing.
That's how it works. That's how it works, folks. I really don't. I guess it's just going to be the state of this program, the state of the Florida State program for the time being. I don't want to relitigate Taggart for the next 2.5 years. Again, the difference is it's 2 games, we had 2 years of Taggart.
Well, we weren't this down on. I wasn't all that.
Not
high
yet.
on everybody.
But even after the Virginia Tech game, after the Syracuse game, even trust me, if you go back and listen to those shows, I know Aslan was worried, rightly. And I was too, but I also was like, look, this is what he took over. He's trying to change a program. He's trying to change a culture. And I was giving him the benefit of the doubt a lot. And then Clemson happened last year. Miami happened last year. The end of the Wake Forest game, deciding to kick a field goal in the pouring rain with a kid that couldn't make it from 35 yards. Not having an extra coach, not having the requisite amount of coaches. The end of the Virginia game, the collapses, the blowout, just all of that was, me at the end after the Miami game last year, listening to me then, and listening to me after the Virginia Tech game, a completely different person. We change. So, hey man, I'm not going to sit here.
But the product on the field didn't change though. That was the problem, right?
Exactly right. And something I'm going to write about. It'll be up on Warchant, but by the time some people are listening to this, it's just, again, we talked about it yesterday. It's just a program that's used to not just losing, but losing embarrassingly. I don't even think they can get embarrassed anymore. Do they get embarrassed with these losses because they're so used to it? No. I don't know that they can get embarrassed by a 52-10 loss because they were down 42-0 to Clemson. They lost 59-3 to Clemson. They were blown off the field by Florida.
59-10. Don't take away that touchdown.
Sorry.
Blackman to Helton. Come on,
Helton. That's right. That's right. And so they're just used to embarrassments. But Mike Norvell isn't. And so I do want to see what changes this year, because certainly 2 games into it, we can all say that he hasn't done a good job and his message hasn't gotten across. That's perfectly understandable to say. We haven't seen any change at all in the program. Now, we can roll our eyes or say it's an excuse maker or not. He didn't get the normal amount of time to try to rebuild a program in year one that most first-year coaches, including Willie Taggart, including Jimbo Fisher, got. But, none of the first-year coaches around the country did either. It's just part of life. It's 2020. You adapt. That said, moving forward, you've got to see some sort of improvement. It's when we talked to the coaches, or when you guys, talked to the coaches on Monday, it wasn't a jovial group, and it would be weird if they were, and they were saying some things that you want to hear, but I feel like the fan base is just, look, at this point, it's verbiage, man. It's just language. And it's not like we still want interviews. We still want to ask them questions. But until we see any sort of change at all on Saturdays, it's all just noise. It's all just white noise. That's not Mike Norvell's fault. I'm not saying Mike Norvell doesn't matter. His thoughts doesn't matter. His thoughts don't matter. His philosophy doesn't matter. It's just that Florida State fans have now been through it for 3.5 years. And the only thing that matters to 99% of the fan base now, after what happened Saturday night, is just getting better on the field. And talking about it is great. We got to write things. We got to talk about things. But for the majority of the fan base, it's obviously, show me something, man. Show me something.
He did sound better health-wise.
Sure. Yeah.
I think even up in Saturday, I think he was just hurt emotionally more so than the virus. But it was a little bit concerning, I thought, when we spoke to him last week. I'm like, man, he definitely sounds like he has some sort of sinus nasal thing going on or whatever, which is a symptom. So it sounds like he is going to be able to return to the program and the building today, Tuesday, as you're listening to this, in which he said he'll be in a much better mood because he hasn't been able to be around his players, and those are his guys. How about that? Saturday night, man, the way he owned that loss, man, the way he spoke, that was like real somber, just despondent head football coach. I mean, it was, I don't know, it's like I can't even describe just how serious the gravity of like the matter had hit him was. And I don't know if that bothered people or if that encouraged people, but to kind of hear him like Monday, like he was off the mat, and it sounded like he kind of flushed it, which maybe some people don't want to hear. Like they still want to hear the residual pain in his voice. But it does sound like they're ready to kind of move forward. But at the same time, I mean, what really can change? We kind of saw they shook up a couple things on the depth chart. But, I mean, did you hear anything that makes you think that, like, we saw the last of James Blackman? And not to do, like, Blackman watch every single show, but that's kind of where we're at this point. What I found interesting is that his messaging is sounding consistent. Like, he's still not throwing James under the bus. There's a little bit of criticism said that, there was a lot of things that were out of James's hand. There were things that, he would want back, which he said, I think, after the Georgia Tech game as well. He said after the first scrimmage. He said after the second scrimmage. But he doesn't sound like he's lost hope on these guys overall, or maybe that's part of Ira's thing that he talked to you about in the post-game video that you and he did, that maybe Mike Norvell can't be honest with us in terms of what he's feeling. But he had every opportunity maybe to voice off on Tamorrion Terry after him and Ron Dugan sort of got into a little bit of a verbal spat on the sideline, but say, hey, it's a passionate game. I want guys that are passionate. I want guys that want to win. When things aren't going your way in a football game, it's really difficult. We're not hearing a guy that's fed up with things. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, it would be I just think it would go completely against his message that he's preached for the last 9 or 10 months, to after 2 awful games to just change who he is and to just panic and to start saying different things, to blow up, to start firing kids. I don't know that that's necessarily the right move. I know that's what most Florida State fans want, is like, tell that kid he's never playing again. Tell half those kids they're never playing again. Yeah. But that's not the message that a head coach in year one in game 3, I think can really take. Man, but you have to figure out. They talk about the thing that I will give them grief for. Trust me, when you lose 52-10, you deserve all the grief in the world, and they better know that. They understand that. Especially on offense. Defense we can get to in a moment. But getting playmakers the ball with the ball in space, getting them a chance to make plays, getting it advantageous matchups. Where is that? Where is it? Because Miami figured it out. Is Rhett Lashlee that much better of an offensive mind than Kenny Dillingham and Mike Norvell? I thought they were peers, man. Why is it just De'Aaron King is so much better than James Blackman? So if James Blackman was on Miami's team right now, would they have scored 26 points in their first 2 games? Does anybody believe that? I'm sorry, my fault. 23 points. Would they have served? In 13 of them were without James Blackman. So that's what I'm confused by. Is what happened to the offensive genius? Because 2 games in, and you brought him up yesterday, and I didn't really get a chance to respond, but Mike Leach goes out in his first game and puts up 620 yards passing on LSU. Now, he does have a quarterback that's a lot better than James Blackman. But if James Blackman was at Mississippi State, would they have thrown for 100 yards total? Is it that big a disparity? And I don't know the answer to that because, again, he is wrecked, and he is not a competent Division I college quarterback right now. That is a huge hindrance. Well, you also should have known that for the last 5 weeks. And if Jordan Travis is hurt and Chubba Purdy is hurt, well, you've got to figure something else out, man. You've got to dial it down, your offense, to a point where this guy, who does have a right arm that moves forward, he can sling a ball, figure out a way to make him somewhat competent and productive and efficient. And they've done nothing of that. And the more I talk about it, the angrier I get, because I get that you're hamstrung by injuries, but you knew that James Blackman was going to be starting the first 2 games of the season 4 weeks ago, probably longer ago than that, as soon as Purdy hurt his collarbone.
Yeah, you're at 6 weeks now, man.
Yeah, you knew who your quarterback was going to be. If Rhett Lashlee knew for 6 weeks that James Blackman was going to be his quarterback, would the only 2 successful drives they've had the whole season were coming out of the locker room of first half drives.
Well, 3.
I think second half drives.
The second half drive was pretty good too, I thought, against Miami. It ended in a pick.
So their opening drive. No, I think they scored the first drive of the second half.
Oh yeah. You're right. Did Blackman threw a pick on the second one then?
Yeah, they were driving down again. But so you coming out of the locker room when you've scripted it, because as Dillingham said, the reason they're good at that, he said that on Monday, is those are the plays they rep the most. Well, how's about taking 28 plays and just repping the bejesus out of them? And that's what you're good at. And that's all you run over and over and over again. Because throwing the kitchen sink at this particular quarterback with this particular offensive line is a recipe for embarrassment. And now you've scored, again, 23 points in 2 games, which I would still point out is better than Willie Taggart did in his first 2 games as the Florida State head coach against ACC teams. But that's not the bar we're trying to clear. The bars are much higher than that around here, and I just can't I do believe in these guys. I think the proof is in the resume. They score points on everyone, and they always have. Like I said, they scored 50 points on Penn State last year in a bowl game. They can move the ball on anyone. But that's always been with a competent QB. And I just don't maybe like the notion
39. They scored 39. Somebody complained about this last week, but
sorry, guys, I exaggerate. I'm hyperbolic. It's why you love me. It's why you love this show. It's why it's the best podcast in America.
That's right.
Anyway,
shout out to the 2 people that left the most recent reviews on iTunes. By the way, we appreciate it. The last 2 reviews were both 5 stars. Nice things.
Oh, there we go.
Nice. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that.
Should you read one of them to maybe prompt someone else to?
I don't know if I have it available.
Okay, well, I'm just saying maybe that's a good way to get people to leave reviews is if you give them, a 15-second shout-out.
I left it on Thursday 5-star is the name of the review. Wake Up Warchant is a morning ritual in our house. It's been especially appreciated as some sense of normalcy during the last 6 months. Keep it up. It's great to know we can count on y'all, even when we can't count on our Knowles.
Well, amen to that. Yeah. So I just, that flummoxes me that these two guys that I do think highly of. I think they're really good at what they do. I think, again, it's not an accident that Norvell was good at Pitt. He was good at Arizona State. He was great at Memphis. This offense travels from program to program. Of course, it comes here, and it's an anchor that falls into the ocean, and you can't pick it up because that's Florida State's luck lately. But I'm not going to give them a pass just because they have James Blackman as a quarterback. Figure it out. You're a head coach. You're an offensive coordinator. Figure out a way to make this thing work. But now that you do have able-bodied quarterbacks available, we hope. There's still not really a lot of clarity there. Literally, if you're going to go out and play Jacksonville State, script the first 15 plays and run them over and over and over again. Quit with everything else. Throw in one deep shot just to do it. But everything else quit. I mean, simplify it to the point that it can't be done wrong. And just go. Because I don't. Is Derek King worth 40 points? More than James Blackman? And that's not a rhetorical question because I don't know the answer.
Well, I mean, there's also, I mean, they got the kicker didn't really do anything that game, but they got that tackle. They also have, Bubba Bolden, I think, is the guy that transferred. I mean, Jalen Phillips got the.
No, I'm legitimately just talking about offense.
Yeah.
Like Miami's offense in their bowl game last year scored 0 points.
Right.
They get a new coordinator and a new quarterback. They just put up the most points in this rivalry game ever. Is it really just the quarterback and the OC? Like, if Lashlee was coaching N'Kosi Perry, if he had to be saddled with that, what would it look like? Because I tell you, he went down and scored a touchdown with him.
Yeah, it's 4 of 7 with a tutty, 50 yards.
Yeah, so he looked better than the guy that Florida State has been coaching for 9 months. Part of that is because the guy that Florida State has to coach is broken, in my opinion. But N'Kosi Perry, why is he not broken? Why did Rhett Lashlee have a system for him to at least go a scheme in place for him to go down and score and make some plays? I don't know. The quarterback has to change, but all of it has to change, and I'm not going to excuse those guys because it's been completely inept for 2 straight games. Anyway, I'm mad. Sorry. I don't know. I wasn't mad. I was actually excited to start the show, and then I started thinking about, yeah, man, if Mike Leach had this entire offense, there's 0 chance they score 23 points in 2 games. Now, they still lose both games, in my opinion. Certainly the one in Miami. But they don't score just 23 points. They just don't, even if he has to throw James Blackman out there. And same thing, apparently, with Rhett Lashlee. Apparently, he's a guru now. Because he turned a team that scored 0 points against Louisiana Tech in the Shreveport Bowl, and now they put up, what are they averaging, 45 points a game? They put up 100 points in 2 ACC games?
Independence Bowl, course. Independence Bowl. Show it its proper respect. In Shreveport.
Well, in Shreveport. Sorry. To me, it's always the Shreve. Right. It's just the Shreveport Bowl. So, anyway, that I would like. I don't know how much you're going to take away from the Jacksonville State game. Probably not a whole lot unless they lose or it's competitive, which, hey, man, I'm certainly not of the belief that Florida State is going to blow this game out. That doesn't seem to be a part of how this program works right now. But I just want to see an offense that's well coached, that moves up and down the field, that has chunk plays, that has huge plays, all the things we've been told about. And we've seen when we watched their other film from other teams. And then, I hear myself saying all this. I'm nodding along with myself as I say it because that's what true narcissists do. But at the same time, I'm like, you can't – nothing works if the quarterback doesn't see what he's supposed to see. Nothing.
Well, that's
not
what I was
one
trying
thing
to ask.
Can work.
That's what I was trying to ask. Like Kenny was, because what Mike Norvell was saying is that James needs to do a better job. I mean, like he took a lot of onus off of James. He put a lot of onus on himself and the coaching staff, Norvell, but then said that ultimately James needs to trust his fundamentals and that this coaching staff is putting him in the right situation or giving him the right sort of play to run in certain situations. And, the counter to that, and I didn't get to ask Mike Norvell, so I had to ask Kenny Dillingham, was, all right, man, so you guys talk about he needs to trust his fundamentals and he needs to trust you guys that you're putting him in the right position. But at what point do you factor in that he's never really been able to do that here recently? And then Kenny's whole thing was like, well, we don't care about what happened in the past. We're going to judge him based on how he runs our system. So I don't know, maybe 2 games is probably enough. Or I guess it has to be enough for them to make a judgment on this.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like – they're not going to throw the kid under the bus. I don't want them to throw the kid under the bus. I think there's enough sort of hints and clues they drop that, and heck, look what happened in the Miami game. You talked about it. They did everything they could to almost minimize James's impact when Jordan was still out there on the field. The first drive was a lot of quick pass controlled stuff, and Jordan also lining up at quarterback. So they're realizing it. I don't know if Tate. Tate. They said he did pretty good. He was a little bit nervous at first, but then kind of found a little bit of ground and poise, but then ultimately turned it over as well. I was thinking Kenny's like, hey, listen, man, all of our quarterbacks turned it over. It wasn't just James. He's right. So I am kind of concerned, though. I don't know if – I think Tate maybe is marginally better than James at this point. That sounds absurd maybe to say to some folks. But
will
it's
say
marginally
this.
better worth it? Do you have to do that?
Yes, because there's no guarantee that it's not like James Blackman is the safe play. Like in 2000, when would that have been? 2008, when there was essentially the three-way race for quarterback with Ponder, Devo, and Weatherford.
Yeah.
You could look at the Weatherford and say, okay, that's the safe pick. Because you knew what he was. He was not great by any stretch of the imagination, not even good, but he wasn't a turnover machine. This isn't the same thing with Blackman. Like, Blackman isn't safe at all. There's no guarantee you're going to go score a touchdown with him at quarterback. Not a touchdown unless you script the whole thing for him. That's where we are now. Like, literally, has he led 3 scoring drives? He's led 4 scoring drives this year. 3 of them were the first drives of a half, and the other one was a 54-yard field goal. That's it. So there's nothing safe about playing him anymore. Just not. And the throw that Rodemaker made, the back shoulder throw, late in the game. I'm sure none of you guys were watching because why would you? I couldn't find the remote. That's the only reason it was still on the TV. The back shoulder to Portier was great. That was number one, a great adjustment by him. Nice catch for the freshman. But that's a nice throw, man. When have you seen Blackman do that ever? So if Rodemaker can see the field just a little bit better and can get rid of the ball, can trust himself a little bit more to get rid of the ball, yes, he's a much better option. Not because I think Rodemaker is a superstar. Again, I'll just keep saying it over and over. This quarterback isn't it. He might have been it if Jimbo had stayed going into 18, maybe Blackman takes off and becomes a legitimate good college quarterback. But that hasn't happened. He has regressed to where he is not even what he was for the NC State game his freshman year, playing against Chubb and those guys. Like, he's just not. He's not a guy that you can run out there and run an offense right now. And also, again, I'll point out, certainly not the way these coaches call these games. He's not. They haven't dialed up a scheme that can accentuate whatever his strengths might be. And what insert joke there. They have not developed a scheme or a game plan that accentuates them at all. So if they're not going to adjust to him, and I'm sure they have. I'm sure they've tried to do it as well as they can. It's just not working. So go with something else. Go with anything else. If Chubb is healthy, couldn't get a real read, could we, on whether he – I know, was it Ira that asked if he's available?
Yeah, I think so. Or actually, I don't remember. I don't want to give false credit out.
I think it was a 2-part question, but the part that we were all interested in was, is Chubba available? Is he healthy enough? And Norvell just kind of gave a typical Norvell answer, which was a lot of vague.
Chubba did practice on Sunday.
He did practice, but we don't know what that means. Is it a full contact practice? Is it a walkthrough? Like, we don't know what these Sunday practices look like.
Right.
And we also know they're mainly designed for the young guys. Now, they all show up, I think, but they're mainly designed for the young guys to get a lot of reps and a lot of work that maybe they don't get during the week. So today would be a much better indication. Today and tomorrow will be a much better indication of if Chubba's readiness if he's going to play. But if he is healthy, if he is cleared, you have to get him out there. and you have to get Rodemaker out there. Same thing with Jordan Travis. We don't know. We didn't really get a health update on him other than he was walking around.
Moving around.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I guess he could be.
Stronger verb. Verb.
Moving around, out there doing some things. Yeah. So we'll see. And that, it's just that's a real bummer too in this whole thing, is that the two guys that I think were rightly competing for the job both missed a lot of fall camp with injuries, and so it really became Blackman's job. It was just Blackman's job. But I don't know, man. I think Rodemaker at Notre Dame gives you just as good a chance to beat the Fighting Irish as James Blackman does. I think Rodemaker against Jacksonville State gives you just as good a chance to move the ball down the field and put up some points finally as James Blackman does.
Probably that's where we're at right now. Yeah, I think he made the kind of added context or, wording around Chuba's injury was, they've got to play it safe and make sure that he's, he's ready to go out there in just terms of the injury having settled, the bone having healed. But Gene's reporting last week said that, he had been cleared. I mean, Gene's sources had told him that,
if he's out there practicing, and he warmed up before the game.
Yeah, so that might just be, Mike trying to slow play maybe expectations around him or to play the kind of guessing game. But what I did like him saying, though, was he gave a rundown on all the quarterbacks. He was asked about Chuba and Tate. I don't think he was asked about Jordan. He mentioned Jordan. He talked about that there's a sense of urgency. Now he then kind of followed up with there's a sense of urgency in every.
But you knew what he
position.
meant, right?
Yeah,
he said there's urgency in the room was the exact quote. There's urgency in that room, meaning the quarterback room. Which, yeah, man, there better be. So that was good. That was good to hear. And then he threw in. I think he caught himself and threw in. Yeah, well, there's urgency in every room. Which again, yeah, there better be. But yes, that caught my ear. That he mentioned there's urgency in that room, meaning these guys know they have a chance to go play, and they have to play better. Literally, James Blackman was the worst-ranked player on the offense, behind Warren Thompson, who all he did was draw a targeting call, and Tamarian Terry, who all he did was getting whatever you call it, a shouting match with his wide receivers coach. Those two guys did zilch, and they still graded out ahead of your quarterback. So. It's not functioning well anyway. There's a lot of things that have to be fixed. It can't function with a bad quarterback. It just can't. And teach somebody else, get somebody else in there, let them go through some lumps, some growing pains, but with the hope, obviously, that they make an adjustment, they improve like Blackman did his freshman year. Blackman wasn't any good at all through the first 7 games of that year. He did enough to win a few, but he was not what you'd call a gifted college quarterback. But by God, by the end of that year, the Florida game I thought was his best game of his career probably. I know the numbers weren't great, but they had a bunch of drops. He played really well and in control and confidently. Yeah. And then he crushed those Golden Eagles from Hattiesburg. Crushed them. They didn't want any part of James Blackman. I bet if you polled those guys on that team right now, they'd be like, or just told them what happened to James Blackman, they'd be like, what? That guy that looked like Mahomes? What? What? You're telling me he only put up 23 points in 2 games? What? That's not right. He took a sack how many times? Yeah. So James Blackman made a nice jump as a true freshman in that offense. He progressed to the point where he was actually not a liability, but a benefit in those last few games of that season. He was a good college quarterback those last few games. He was never his ceiling was only so high, but he was getting there. So it can happen if you play one of these young guys. By the end of the year, by that Duke game that we're all looking forward to at the end of the year, whoever's your guy, whether it's Rodemaker, Purdy, Jordan Travis even, they could be legitimately pretty good by then. And then you have some hope going into next year and somebody to build on.
What do you think about the depth chart, Corey? Is there anything to take away from the depth chart? They paired off, or I shouldn't say paired off because that sounds like that's adding, but when you pare something down, they are now listing a running back and a tailback and 2 wide receivers as opposed to just a running back and 3 wideouts. So Jay Sean's at 1 running back. Right. He's the running back. Tailback is either LaDamian Webb or Lawrence Toafili. People talk about him getting more option or more opportunities. At whose expense, I wonder? Well, obviously not LaDamian Webb because he hasn't played, or he didn't play against Miami. Otherwise, on the offense, the receivers, it's Pokey or Tamorian at one spot with Kentron backing them up, and the other receiver spots, Keyshawn or Warren, with Jordan Young backing those two guys up. So, I mean, I don't like this. Would that change the way they would operate, you think? Like if they had Corbin and Webb or Corbin and Toafili back there with Rodemaker and they only went too wide?
I mean, you could do the whole thing where you could just swing past teams to death.
I mean,
it's
an option, right? Defensively, I mean, I find interesting is that Miko Dotson's no longer listed on the depth chart at any of the spots, and he hasn't played 2 games, right? He didn't play against Miami either. So, I mean, that's another guy that maybe he could have, I mean, maybe Hamza could make a difference. I mean, I don't know how much, we'll get to the defense maybe here in a minute or two, but you would hope that, being a cover corner, you feel like that's one of the things you can come in there and pretty much do well, no matter what's going on around you. Obviously, you want some pressure on the quarterback, but maybe a guy like Mako Dotson could be a little bit of an upgrade over Jarian or Akeem. But right now, it's Jarian or Akeem, and then opposite Asante. Otherwise, they don't look, I would think, very pleased with Emmett Rice because the weak side linebacker is anybody. It's Emmett or Jaleel or DJ Lundy. So that's that's the only real sort of difference from the depth chart from week 2 to week 3. But I think
it's just a matter of like, will the 2021 team be better if Emmett Rice takes the majority of the snaps or DJ Lundy?
But you know what I mean? You have to win now.
That was my point. That's the counter to that. That there's two dueling philosophies. Yes, you do. But are you? Like Emmett Rice has played a bunch. Emmett Rice has started both games. Has that mattered?
Yeah.
So whoever starts against Notre Dame, is that going to matter? They're going to lose that game and probably lose it violently. Like it's going to be like cause violent convulsions in Florida State fans. Well, no, you're numb to it now. They're going to get blown out again, most likely. If they don't, that is a tremendous sign. But they're going to lose that game pretty comfortably, no matter who starts at linebacker. So that's what I wonder when you're building a program and when we talk about the youth movement, those are the dueling philosophies he's got to come up with. Who gives us the best? Adam Fuller will probably tell him this is the guys that know it the best, that probably give us the best chance to succeed today, this week. Okay, but Norvell's also thinking about bigger picture stuff too, and what's better for his team in 2021. Because there are 2 more games left on this schedule, at least 2. But definitely 2 that they have no chance of winning. None. We could obviously throw Miami into that category now. So when the season started, they had 3 games they had no chance of winning. Now you also got North Carolina and Pitt that aren't going to be. None of these games are easy. Who am I kidding? You lost to Georgia Tech, so you can literally lose to anyone left on your schedule.
Yeah, Georgia Tech lost to Syracuse. Everybody. Jeff Sims, I think, threw 4 picks against the vaunted Orange defense.
Yep. So you can lose to everybody left on the schedule. This season is going nowhere. It's a goofy mulligan-type season anyway where people get their eligibility back. So I just think if the depth chart has an or, and one of the guys is a senior that's had a whole bunch of chances to do something in his career and hasn't, and the other guy's a true freshman, man, I'm letting the true freshman get real game reps because 2021, the thing needs to be better. We've already written off this season as just watch it and see how bad it gets. But 2021, you got to have some hope. And maybe by November, these guys aren't playing like they should still be in high school. They're actually playing like, November freshmen or sophomores even, or they're playing well. It's okay to have freshmen it's allowed to have freshmen that actually exceed expectations. Exceed expectations. That does happen around the country. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it with this program. So I don't know if I know it's easy for me to say because I'm not paid to win games, but if you're looking for the betterment of the program, you got to quit playing the veterans that have had chances to be good and aren't, and you don't win with them anyway. And if you're going to lose games, go ahead and lose with the young guys, get them some experience, and see how they react to it too. That's another. I thought that was a good question. Somebody asked Norvell on Monday about not being able to be in the locker room with those guys to see how they responded. That might have been Ira too. I can't remember. Ira asked a lot of questions. Warchant always dominates those press conferences. Just know that. And also go to Warchant, subscribe, read Ira's 321. It was really good.
Yeah.
We do if I do say so myself, we do a really good job of breaking down these blowouts. And I think we do a good job of like contextualizing things and not saying everybody needs to be fired. We wouldn't even do that last year during Taggart. I think we do contextualize things, but also we can complain and we can see the side of the fans and we know what has to get better. So not that makes us anything incredible, but we are incredible. So go subscribe if you don't already. But he asked Norvell about not being in the locker room after the game and how much that hurt. And Norvell kind of talked about that. This is his team and those are his players and they were hurting. And it hurt him not to be there, like you were alluding to earlier. Well, I just keep going back to a lot of these guys obviously are okay with getting the crap kicked out of them. Sorry to be so eloquent.
That's not fair. I mean, I don't know. They're okay. I mean, I guess you want to see more.
Nothing stops. Nothing stops. And he pointed out. Ira pointed out I think he pointed out on Saturday. Maybe he pointed out on Twitter about Marvin Wilson, even after he got kicked out of the game, was still down there engaged in the game and encouraging teammates when it was 38 to 10. Who can remember? The score was already well out of reach, and Marvin Wilson is still engaged and still coaching his teammates and trying and caring. Not everybody else on that sideline is, man. In fact, most of them aren't. So it's just.
But Mike Norvell even said, man, it's a passionate game. He wants passionate players, and it's hard. And I know, listen, everybody's getting half the teams lose every Saturday, and they're not all curling up in the fetal position and playing like a bunch of sissies. I don't really know if this team does. This team does come out prepared. I mean, we see how they play in the first drive. They had Miami had like 3 third-down conversions on their first drive. Like, they're playing tough, but then things go wrong. And it just how many times can you ask this team to get off the mat with the amount of change they've gone through? We'll believe in this guy. We'll believe in that guy. We'll believe in this guy. 4 down linemen, that's our recipe. Today, 3 down linemen, okay, that's our recipe. Like, they're trying everything, and they're failing. And at a certain point, I don't know. These guys, it's not Madden. You just don't put these guys out there and they're going to have the same effort level the entire game. They're human beings with emotions. I'm not surprised that they react in these situations.
Yeah, but I mean, again, if you've watched Florida State never got blown out. And I know they had a lot of talent, but it just never happened. It just didn't. Even if they got down 31-3 in the fourth quarter against a great team, it wasn't what they did. And it's
That's
just
so
too easy.
Ago,
It's 26 years ago now. I know. I speak from a place of literally watching this team for the last 37 years of my life. Yeah. Because as everyone knows, I am 37. But it's too this team, this current. I'll say this team, but really, obviously, the last 3 years. I know each team is different. They've gotten so used to this that it's here it comes again, and nothing happens. No plays are made. No plays are made to thwart momentum. Even when Miami drops a punt, the first thing you do is throw a pick right back in embarrassing fashion. You can't get off the field. You can't convert a third down. You can't fight for a ball when you're running a slant. You're so easily run through and they get the ball knocked out of your hand. You take a sack. Just everything. There's nothing that happens that thwarts momentum. When it starts going poorly, they cave. And at some point, quit putting out the guys that do. Just see how the other guys react to it. At least see. Because we know how about a dozen of them react to it. And it's never favorably. Ever. And so that's what I'm saying when he could have been in that locker room. If you play the young guys against Notre Dame, and they're going to get blown out probably, see who it matters to, man. Like Dante Lucas played like absolute horror against Miami. But at the very least, it matters to him. We know that. We know it matters to Marvin Wilson. So, and Norvell brought him up about how encouraged, how that was the best thing he saw was Marvin still engaged in the game and coaching from the sidelines after he'd been kicked out. So, I don't know. Just So when it starts going poorly, it turns into just a puddle of despair, and it never we've seen what these other guys do and how they handle it. So put in new guys and see if they have a little more fight in them when it matters. And again, I want to point this out, and this was pointed out a lot by, I think, Dillingham, but also Norvell, is the fight doesn't matter on Saturday. Everybody's upset when they're getting their brains beat in on Saturday. How much does it matter to you on Tuesday? Like, how much does that embarrassment stick with you, or the threat of being embarrassed, make you watch film an extra 30 minutes longer, make you stay on the practice field an extra 20 minutes, make you really, really try to get better at a certain drill or a certain getting off a block? How much does that matter to you? Because, of course, when you're in a game, and I'm going to bring it back to 12-year-old baseball because it all goes back to 12-year-old baseball, Aslan. You know that.
It's the nation's metaphor. I mean, everything hinges off of that one. Everything pivots off of it.
I watch Brady's teams play, and they are a front-running bunch of they are a great front-running team, my man. When they get on a team, typically, they can turn it into an 18-0 rout. But then the other day, Sunday, they had a 9-1 lead in the game, and they blew it. Walked the world. Had a bunch of the catcher couldn't catch anything. It kept going to the backstop. Another wild pitch scores a run. Another wild pitch scores a run. They end up losing that game. And they're upset, like 12-year-olds will be, like really upset. And you want to say, yeah, I get that you're upset now, but this has to matter not now. It has to matter on Wednesday when you practice catching. Like when you practice blocking balls, block the ball. Like that's when it matters. You can't get mad. You can't get this mad now when it doesn't matter to you on Wednesday, when you don't put in the work to get better so this doesn't happen. And that's when this program has to get there, man. It's not just trying hard on Saturday. I'm not saying that team even quit. I think they fundamentally quit. I think they had fundamental and mental lapses because the adversity hit. But, you know, if it doesn't matter to you enough on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, then it can't mean the world to you on Saturday, and you can't get that upset when you lose. That's just an old man talking, but it gets frustrating to watch a team that every time they play a good team, a team with a pulse, when they play an okay team like Georgia Tech, it's not even okay. Things start going poorly, they soil themselves, and when they play a good team, they completely get into the fetal position. It gets frustrating to watch that.
Well, there's only one thing I really wanted to touch on, but I guess maybe we should dabble a little bit of the defense, although I guess we talked a little about it with the depth chart thing. Like, might as well roll some other guys out there. At least offensively, you know that you're repping, you're scripting a drive, and it's actually working out well. That's a little bit encouraging. You know that you could probably change your quarterback, and you're going to get a little bit of a lift. At least you're going to get a variable in this science experiment to know and show the fan base, like, hey, listen, look what we did with this kid, Tate Rodemaker, Jordan Travis. Like, look how the offense looks with them going versus the other guy. So at least that kind of proves to the fan base that this offense can work sooner than later. Defensively, I don't know where. No one's coming to save them. Adam Fuller's got. I don't know what Adam Fuller. He's not going to be sleeping well for the next 9 weeks, I don't think. That side of the ball, and I don't know, he almost said as much. I mean, he realizes the deficiencies they have, like they have to find a way to rush the passer, but with who? How? We're probably, we've been talking about the quarterback, we talked about Kendall's offense, we talked about Willie's offense, but at the end of the day, it was Harlan's defense last year that really, really looked bad, that really sunk that team. And for as bad as this offense looks, and they're not going to win any game scoring 13 points or 10 points, but now that these teams are going to probably be, closer to Miami than they are Georgia Tech, you're going to probably expect this defense to surrender 30-plus points against these teams. Like that Kenny Pickett kid from Pitt's a pretty good quarterback. He's probably going to move the ball on this team. Ian Book at Notre Dame, probably going to move the ball on this team.
Maybe even the kid at North Carolina.
Yeah, Sam Howell probably going to do that as well. I mean, Louisville Malik Cunningham, they probably need to find. Maybe Juwan Pass will come back and exorcise his demons from the 2018 game. But defensively, that's, we probably don't talk about enough because the quarterback's a sexier thing to talk about. But that's not going to end well, I don't think, defensively. I don't know, what could they do, Corey? I mean, is that where you start rolling out younger guys? But I feel like, if anything, you can probably get away with it on offense. But defensively, are these guys physically ready? Is Quayshawn Fuller ready to take 60 reps in a game? Is True Thompson ready to take 60 reps in a game? Is DJ Lundy? Jarvis Brownlee's one of these guys. I mean, Kalen DeLoach. I mean, really, is Amari Gainer's not a problem. I mean, I'm looking at this depth chart on defense, and that doesn't look encouraging.
No, and it all starts much like the offense's troubles start with the quarterback. The defense's troubles obviously start with the pass rush. Again, though, what did you think you had? Is this a stunning surprise?
Well, I mean, gosh, you figured Marvin and Coop and Durden and Fabian Lovett are gonna penetrate. Yeah, disrupt the pocket.
That for a good coaching staff, and there's a lot of good coaching staffs that they're playing against, that's pretty easy to scheme around. Just go out wide. You can use 3 or 4, even 4 guys to block the 2 in the middle because you don't have to help your tackles. Your tackles are got it on lock. They're fine. No, we're going to chip with the tight end. You're going to what? No, go run the route.
And Papuch was saying, as a coaching staff, they figured to go 3 down linemen to take away the edges. Or to not have guys on the edges. So it's then where are you going to bring? Where is the pressure?
Yeah, and so what happened is they were obviously they weren't bad on first and second down. They kept getting them into third downs, but they were easily convertible third downs. Whether the looks, the fact that you can't rush. I mean, there really wasn't. Maybe there was one good throw that he made. The throws were nice, but I'm saying where he had to actually make a nice throw, a good quarterback play. Otherwise, there were 60 quarterbacks in this country that could have made those throws. Maybe 100. I don't know. So as long as they could see him, and he did a good job of seeing the blitz and seeing what was vacated and just taking it okay, I'm just going to, even though it's 3rd and 14 or 3rd and 20, I'm going to throw a 2-yard swing pass to my running back because I feel like he'll get there. So he did a good job in that regard. But, yeah, the first and second down was fine. Third down is an issue. And it's going to continue to be an issue because the only way you can get pressure, legitimate sack pressure. I don't know what the record is for sacks for a defensive tackle at Florida State in a season, but it can't be more than 7 or 8 at the absolute most. You're just not going to get quarterback sacks from that position group. You can get the pocket pushed back.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for. Yeah,
which has happened occasionally. It's happened occasionally. And on one of the, I think it was a touchdown or at least a really big throw that King made, Marvin Wilson destroyed him. Marvin Wilson is planting him into the ground as he's throwing it, and of course they complete it for a touchdown anyway. You can get that's going to happen occasionally, but if you don't have guys on the edge that can move him from his spot, as Fuller said, and I think Papuchas might have said that too, move the quarterback from the spot, pressure him, even if you're not getting sacks, move him, make him uncomfortable. Every quarterback on the schedule is going to light you up, including the guy this Saturday. So that's always going to be a problem. But Georgia last year, and this is the only time I'm comparing Florida State to Georgia. I think Georgia and Florida State both had similar sack numbers last year. Georgia doesn't sack the quarterback. That's not really even part of Smart's philosophy, weirdly. They might have had 15 or 16 sacks. That's just not what they do. But they're still one of the best defenses in the country. They affect the quarterback. They make him get rid of the ball quickly without maybe registering 55 sacks in a season like the 96 Florida State team did. Just insane numbers. There has to be a way. You can't just throw up your hands and say, well, we can't pressure them, so they're going to go up and down the field. There's got to be, again, I don't get paid money to do this. So, I get paid money to do this, talk to you guys right now. I don't get paid money to coach football. There has to be a way that you can still mitigate your weaknesses to the point where you can get – they haven't had a third 3 and out all year. It's been 28 drives. They're 0 for 28 on a 3 and out, and they've had 13 opportunities probably. So there has to be a way that you can coach around this to a point where it's not so easy. I get that there's only so much you can do if you can't pressure the quarterback, but those third down conversions are so easy. Do you remember a play that Jeff Sims made on third down where you're like, holy moly, you just got to give it up to that kid. That's a great throw.
No, because they rose wide open.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They've
got pressure on the quarterback. They're not covering well either. And now Travis Jay is probably not going to play.
And when they pressure the quarterback, when they do bring pressure, the guys that are covering give too much room. Like, you have to know. That's what Fuller, by the way, you need to go watch the video. Don't just settle for my transcription, because I cannot transcribe him. It's an impossibility. He's like he's my white whale, man. Like, I can't figure how to transcribe that guy. He talks so fast, and he also talks so football specific. Like, Norvell is all about generalities. He doesn't get specific really about anything, even if you ask him about a specific player. But Fuller gets down to the nitty and gritty on everything. And I'm just trying to have my brain keep up to understand what he's talking about, much less than type it out. So, yeah, my transcription for him is awful. But I can't remember what I was talking about with Fuller. But that's what has to change, is you have to figure out a way to – that's what he was saying. He was saying that everything has to work together. Like, you can't have one guy do a good job but then the other guy not do a good job, meaning if the blitzer – you asked about the blitzing and how sometimes there's not a lot of lanes to run through. And he was saying, but even when we do blitz and we do maybe affect the quarterback and he does have to move, the guys that are covering the short routes are too far off. Yeah. Like, his outlets, that's what he said. He's like, every blitz you have, there's a reactive play to it. So every time they blitz, the quarterback has a hot read, obviously. We all saw
Wedding Crashers.
Wedding Crashers. Yeah. We all know hot routes.
Hot route.
So, by the way, how about Bradley Cooper being like the biggest star out of that movie? That's crazy. His like a meteor, that guy. So there is a route that comes. There's a route that is run because you're blitzing. Well, why isn't your defender on that route? Like, we know that he has a check down and he has a hot route if he's feeling pressure. So why then is there nobody on that side of the field with him? Or if they are on that side of the field with him, why are they giving him 11 yards on 3rd and 6? It's just stuff like that. Like, some of that you just got to get it out of these guys. It's just winning football, and they don't know how to do it. They just don't. And you hope that these guys can teach them. Now, Norvell did say his system has worked everywhere he's been. He believes in it, and it's going to work here. So, do with that what you will.
I didn't believe Corey, so if you didn't believe Corey, you're not alone. When he talked about Georgia and their sacks, Florida State was 44th in the nation last year with 32 sacks. Meanwhile, Georgia was 60th. They had 31 sacks.
Well, 15 was off. What can you check? 18? Like, I think 2018 when they what did they do in 18?
Anything that year though?
No, I'm talking about Georgia. I'm talking about Georgia's sack numbers in 18.
Okay.
Like, I feel like, didn't they make it to like the playoffs? I can't remember what Georgia did in 18.
Who won in 18? That was Clemson. I don't think they did.
Oh, no, they lost. So the year before they lost in the championship game in Alabama when they blew a big lead. 17. And then in 18, they blew a big lead in the SEC championship game in Alabama that would have gotten them in the playoffs when Jalen Hurts came off the bench. It was the reverse.
Georgia
whoever their backup is.
Was 100th in the nation that year, 2018. 24 sacks.
Yeah, 24 sacks in 14 games.
Yeah.
They were 100th in the nation in sacks.
But I take that defense every day.
100%. Yeah. But now that doesn't mean they weren't getting pressures. I bet their pressure numbers were off the charts, Aslan.
Don't make me do that.
No, you don't have to do that. But they're so sound everywhere else. And those guys, when they do rush the passer, they have they know what their role is. They don't go crazy out wide to give the quarterback a huge lane to run through. And if they do, it's on purpose, and a linebacker is going to fill that spot. They work so well together. I don't know how many sacks they had against Kendall. By the way, not a great debut for my man Bryles at Arkansas.
Yeah, I know, right? Dan Mullen did a little better with Felipe Franks than he did.
I was going to say he has to go from James Blackman to Felipe Franks. But that's a tough ask. That's a tough defense that he was facing. They scored one touchdown, I think their second drive, and then that was a wrap. But Georgia's defense works so well together, even though they don't have these incredible defensive ends that are just pressuring the quarterback and getting 14 sacks a season. They don't need a DeMarcus Walker to be great defensively. Florida State shouldn't have to either. So, but Georgia obviously Georgia's defense is what Florida State's used to be. Like, they have 4- and 5-star dudes everywhere. They have NFL players all up and down, and they play with a nastiness and an edge and a playmaking ability that Florida State just doesn't have or hasn't had. And you hope they find it. But yes, Fuller definitely has his work cut out for him. And so far, not so good.
What if I told you Florida State had 238 pressures in 2018 and Georgia had 188? Because that's what Pro Football Focus says.
Man, how about that? So, I mean, look, guys, Florida State's only probably one linebacker away from being Georgia on defense.
Pass rush you, baby. Pass rush you.
That's right, man. Isn't that crazy though? Like, that Georgia that's not what they do. They're not about wrecking the quarterback. They're about getting into sight lines, making it hard for them, covering guys, but stopping the run. But yeah, they're not guys that just are sending quarterbacks to hospitals. Right. They don't touch them much.
Yeah, I didn't even know what to ask. Yeah. I didn't know what to ask Adam Fuller because I was going to. They didn't stop the run all that well. Like, Miami averaged over 5 yards a carry, but like De'Aaron King was just shredding and slicing them up. So it's like, hey, you want to try to take away the run game, but it's like no, because they're getting thrown all over the place on the back end.
What I thought was interesting.
Uplifting.
No, there's nothing redeeming about it at all. But what I thought was interesting when he did talk about the 3-man front, and this is very inside football, but it hadn't even occurred to me. He's like, we wanted them to have the ability to go all 3 ways.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted essentially his 3 best defensive linemen on the field. And, like, if you're playing a 4-man front, well, if you're the defensive tackle next to, let's just throw Kando out there because he might play this year, and Kando is going to do an inside rush, well, that means you can't go to the left. Like, even if you can beat the offensive guard to the left, even if you get leverage that way, you can't because you're going to run right into Kando. So you really probably need to go to the right, and even if the guard is leaning that way. So you have no leverage, so he stops you. You have to go to the right because Kando is going to the right. Well, his point was, if you have a 3-down lineman, you can just bull rush, you can go to the right, or you can go to the left. They left it up to the players themselves, depending on the matchup and how the snap started. Yeah, like if you can, and so I thought that was interesting. That's why they did it, but obviously it didn't make any difference. It didn't make it. They could have had 7 men up at the line. They got a 7-man front. Try that. What if you just rushed 8 every play?
I mean, they got to get home. I mean, they were throwing guys into walls of humanity. They were never getting to De'Aaron King by and large. 2005, Broderick Bunkley had 9 sacks.
Man, you're doing a lot of research while I yammer on and on. Good for you.
Well, because that's what I was thinking about. Like, he was because he just wrecked everything. He wrecked everything in 2005. That wasn't a good team. That wasn't a great year. They were ranked, I think, kind of high though until they lost.
Well, and they had some talent on that defense, right? I mean, that was 3 or 4 first-rounders on that defense.
Yeah, but my guy, man, he literally had like a sack or a half sack in like 10 out of the 13 games they played.
Who else was on that? Would Cam Wembley been on that defense?
Yeah.
So, and I know Ernie was on that defense. Cromartie was on that defense, although he didn't play. I don't think Cromartie played. That was the year he was hurt.
I think Lawrence Timmons might have still been around.
Timmons definitely would have been. Buster Davis. So there was some serious talent there.
Tony Carter, he had a cup of coffee in the NFL, man.
He did. But I just wonder who the DNs were there, because if you have good DNs, boy, that makes rushing the passer as a defensive tackle, it makes it somewhat conceivable that you can get some sacks if they have to put a lot of attention on those DNs. Like I bet Jernigan, I don't know that Jernigan ever had more than 4 or 5 sacks in a year. By the way, he was just cut by the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I hope he gets it back, man. That's a big surprise. Him and Rashad Green are both, like, Jernigan got paid at least. Like, Jernigan's been in the league now for 7 years.
Yeah, he got a good second contract.
He made some money, and he was good before the injuries. I'm still I thought he'd play for at least, I thought he'd play for a decade. I thought he'd be, just the injuries hurt him too much. And then Rashad Green, too, was a big surprise, as well as, I guess, the starting quarterback. It's hard to say he didn't pan out. He did lead the NFL in passing yards last year, Jameis Winston. But, yes, he did not turn into a Super Bowl winning superstar like I probably thought he was going to be.
Yeah, man. Barry Wright, Cam Wembley, DJ Norris, Willie Jones Jr., Anthony Kelly, Daryl Burston, Alex Boston, Everett Brown. There we go.
Okay,
There's your
so
other
he
defensive
had
end.
So he had Everett Brown and Cam Wembley. Those guys can, those guys can take some eyes. They're gonna be game planning to stop those two guys a little bit as well. Again, it's gonna be hard for Marvin Wilson, Cooper, who was in a club. We don't know his prognosis. Durden, those guys to really wreak havoc with sack numbers, but they can still affect games much more than they've been doing so far.
There's something else I wanted to mention, but we're at an hour, so I'll.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, everyone.
No, you're fine. It's fine.
I talk too much. I get it. I yammer on and on. I'm as perplexed as y'all are, man. I mean, I kind of know a little bit how we got here, just like everybody else, but it's just there's not a lot of sunlight to see. It just you feel like you're in a hole and it's nothing but darkness around you when it comes to this football program. You just want something to feel good about, like. Go to Notre Dame and actually have a chance to win that game in the fourth quarter. Wouldn't that make everybody feel great?
Oh, absolutely.
And then you say that and you're like, God, it's fallen so far that just being close to Notre Dame, not Alabama, Notre Dame is enough to feel good. But I mean, yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are, and we're all in it together. I'm going to keep saying that. Nobody enjoys this, I promise. There wasn't a wake up war chant in 2013. But holy moly, if there was, how awesome would that have been? Just every day waking up, the birds are chirping, rainbows and sunshine and puppy dogs. It would just been awesome. This isn't fun. It's not fun to cover a program that is this bad. It's certainly not fun to cheer for one. But we're going to get through it together. We are. And we're going to come out the other side eventually. And then this will just have made us stronger.
Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first? The chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Order ahead drive-thru or get it delivered.